What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Tuesday Night Hi-Fi with Mike and Giles. And today we have a special guest, Michael, Youthman, the legend. What's going on, man?
Not sure about legend, but what's happening, guys?
The living legend.
The living legend, yeah. Dude, you're a legend in this game, man. We're happy to have you on. We're happy you took the time to come chit-chat with us and our audience and everything.
Definitely glad to be here, man.
How's Florida treating you right now? You guys are getting another hurricane, aren't you?
Dude, it's like our weather is always crazy and jacked. It's like hot and sweaty, and then, give it an hour and it's going to be pouring rain, but that only lasts like 20 minutes. So it's always up and down.
Dude,
always humid. Always humid.
You got to move closer to somewhere where there isn't that much excitement.
I was born and raised here.
So. Oh, okay. So that's where all your family's at and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, Giles, you mentioned backstage that you were in Alabama for a while. We moved to Alabama for about 4 years, but other than that, I've been here in Florida.
Yeah, I've been running from the humidity my entire life. So, I made it in Alabama till 22 or 23 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, too much. Then I moved all the way out to the West Coast. I'm like, okay, it's a little bit less humidity out here.
Sure.
And that stuck for 15 years or something, and then 7-ish years ago I was like, nope, still too much, and moved to Colorado. And now all I've got left is like moving to a desert to get away from humidity.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're going to take a family trip out to Colorado. We're taking my family of 6, my daughter-in-law, and my oldest daughter's boyfriend.
Right on.
She's off in college, but we're going up to Breckenridge, stay a week up there. So
yeah,
daughter-in-law. So you have kids old enough to get married?
Oh yeah, I have one son. He got married during COVID. He was supposed to get married like in a normal wedding, and we ended up having to do it in our backyard because literally the next week everything was going to be shut down, and we're like, oh crap, what are we going to do? So we ended up just doing it right in our backyard, really really small. We have their like official kind of wedding, like the big ceremony and everything. That'll take place on October the 3rd. So we're right around the corner for that. Yeah. So my oldest daughter, she's in college. She's at UF in Gainesville. And my oldest son, he's married. And then I've got a daughter graduating high school. And then I've got a daughter that just entered high school.
Dude, you were too young to be having grandbabies. So you tell them to slow down.
We ain't at the grandbaby stage just yet.
Man. Well, congratulations on all that, because it sounds like it's been a busy COVID season.
Oh, man. Absolutely.
Life doesn't stop, right?
And so how long have you been doing, because you and I haven't really had a chance to chat yet.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing the YouTube gig?
So I started my channel, I guess, about 6.5 years ago, but it was just random stuff. At that time, I was GoPro youth man because I bought a GoPro and I'm like, oh, I got to make some YouTube videos. And, back then you're like, YouTube was still kind of on the new side of it. And so I'm like, okay, if I put GoPro in the name, then that's going to like drive traffic to it, right? And, I didn't get any views, not a lot. And channel didn't really grow, but I didn't put out regular content. And so I would put out things like me jumping off a cliff, into water with a GoPro, or I would do some wakeboarding, or we would do family vacation, or I do clip speakers or whatever. And it was just random. And sometimes it'd be 2 months that would go by without even having a video. And so about 2.5 years ago, I'm like, you know what? Let me just see what happens. What if I actually produced regular content, kind of narrow it down to just home theater, and let's just see what's happening. And so it technically started about 2.5 years ago, where I was at least starting to get serious about it and trying to figure out how this thing works. How do you grow a channel? And at that time, I only had 900 subscribers. So it's been a pretty wild ride in the past 2.5 years.
That's impressive for 2.5 years. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people's story starts that way. They're like, well, I was doing this a little bit of everything, and then I finally narrowed it down. And I guess I was lucky I bypassed that whole process. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do audio and not stray from that unless I totally flop.
Right.
So I haven't flopped yet, but yeah, it's been exciting because obviously Giles has been in my corner the whole time, guiding me and showing me the ropes. And it's kind of unfair because not a lot of people have a Giles to rely on, you know,
it's either a good thing or bad thing. It was one, who knows really, you know?
Well, I mean, the cool thing was when I met Giles, I was kind of excited because I'm like, dude, I want to be like that guy. I want to like do stuff like that. But home theater really wasn't my thing because I don't have a home theater of my own. I have a home theater here where I live, but it's not mine to like manipulate.
Sure.
So it's fun because Giles lives about 10 minutes down the road from me, so I can just go down to his house and, you know, mess around with his stuff.
Right.
And but I can focus on 2-channel stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do a lot of 2-channel and stereo stuff and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on more so, like subwoofers and 2-channel.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, this whole YouTube game, I mean, you guys, I mean, Giles warned me. He's like, dude, this is not an easy racket. You know, this is
it's not for the faint of heart.
No,
it's not all accolades and fun times.
It's funny because it doesn't get easier over time either.
Yeah.
It's just the same grind over and over and over again. If you don't got like videos in the queue, you know, you're like, what the hell am I going to do this week? You know? So do you put out videos every week, or is it like
I do 2 to 3 videos a week, and then I do typically 1 to 2 videos for my patrons. So I'm doing about 5 videos a week.
Dude, that's a lot. That's a huge workload.
Yeah.
Do you is this your career, or do you do also other stuff too?
So for 23 years, I was a youth pastor. So that's where Youth Man comes from.
Okay.
And then I resigned from there and I started working at a company, like a nonprofit, doing, I was a communication specialist. So I did website design, graphic design, page layout, video editing, videography, photography, photo editing, all that stuff. So I spent about a year there in 2019. But that whole time I'm thinking, you know, I really want to just be full-time entrepreneur, because I've had a business in website development since 2014. No, 2004. Sorry, 2004. So I've been doing that a long time, just as a side hustle kind of thing, extra income, pay off debt with, and, you know, family vacations and things like that. But I never really thought about, hey, you know, what would it look like to just be self-employed?
Yeah.
And so in January, I'm like, you know what, I'm going all in. And so my wife talked about it, you know, for a long time, and we were kind of making our way to get to that point. And, you know, it's definitely a step of faith, and we're like, all right, let's just do it. And it's just been awesome, man. It's been really, really awesome. But now I'm able to just, instead of having 3 jobs, I was working a full-time job, coming home, spending time with the family. And then I would be up sometimes till 4 a.m., either developing a website for a client or, you know, working on my YouTube content. So talk about a grind for a year, man.
Yeah.
It was rough.
That's sometimes that's how you got to do it. But I praise you for that. And sometimes it just takes that leap of faith to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to grind it out. But
it would have been harder if I didn't have another, pretty much a full-time job, you know, with my web development, you know, to be able to just jump into YouTube full-time. I mean, I don't even remember what I had as far as subscribers. I mean, maybe it was like 30,000, you know, so I don't think you can really survive off of that. But I just began to, I'm like, you know, I already had kind of a variety of, you know, revenue streams. And so just trying to get as many different things, whether it's affiliate links and brand deals and, you know, the AdSense and merch and Patreon, you know, just trying all of it just trying to supplement that income and replace what I was leaving, you know, for a full-time income. So, but it's been working out great, man. I literally, I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do. So it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah. I want to get to that point. I know Giles and I talk about this all the time. Like, because I want to, right now I'm in the perfect spot because I have no wife, no kids, no nothing. And I would love to get to the point where I can just be doing this full time, focus my full time attention. And that's the plan. I think down the road is to kind of make Audio Architects into its self-sustaining thing, you know?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how Giles, I don't know how you do it, man. You work a full-time job, and that's a heavy duty job too, because it's not like, you know, you're not going to serve tables like I am. You know, you got an important position, and you do this full time, and you got time enough to put out at least a video a week, or, you know.
Well, my point of view is completely different than you guys, right? So I'm not necessarily looking to make YouTube my career. you know, YouTube for me is a creative and passionate outlet. Right. So, you know, my full-time career is the career, and that's, you know, I'm going to do that forever. And that's where I'm going to retire. And, because I get a lot of satisfaction, out of that kind of work. And so my career has always been around public service in one form or another. I worked in healthcare for many years, and now I'm an IT guy, so I'm not a doctor. I'm not, you know, I'm a technical dude. You know, I call myself saving lives one email at a time for the time I was in healthcare. And, you know, I did a lot of infrastructure work and moved into management. And now I'm CIO for municipal government here in Colorado. And, you know, that's, you know, that allows me also to then work with PD and fire and public works and parks and rec and really contribute to, you know, public service in many ways that I was never able to before. So that's, I mean, that's the core of kind of my personality work-wise, right? And, you know, that extends out to family and all that kind of stuff. But what that job didn't give me was an artistic creative outlet. So not that I'm very artistic or creative, but YouTube was a way that I could meld you know, my hobby, which is audio, hi-fi, home theater, that kind of stuff, with a creative effort, and have fun with it, right? So for me, luckily, I don't, you know, I don't have to depend on it so much for on the money side. So, you know, if I do well, it's great. If I don't do well, I'm just having fun with it. So it takes the pressure off a little bit. Right. But man, it's it'll kind of swallow your life if you let it, because you're like, okay, I got to get this next video out, and okay, I need to find time for production. And you know, you add that pressure to yourself. If you're producing 5 videos a week, you know, that's basically one a day with your weekend then, right? So these things don't make themselves. And you know, folks don't understand that you might film for 3 hours and edit for 4.
Yes, easily.
Right? Yeah, easily.
Sometimes days. It just depends on what the product is, and you know, how much research and how much, you know, oh my goodness, screen capturing, or, you know, if you're trying to do different camera angles. I mean, there's just so much to it. But like you said, it's a cool avenue for us to be, you know, creative. You know, I've never been able to draw. I have never really been able to build anything other than with, you know, a mouse and a keyboard, you know, or a camera, or, you know, a video camera. And so to be able to be creative and to express ourselves, you know, in that way, and to help other people along their home theater or hi-fi or 2-channel journey, man, it's just incredibly rewarding. So,
yeah. Have you gotten into the DIY thing? Because I just did my first project, and
that was fun.
I just replaced my capacitors in my speakers, because my Calypso Scalas are 40 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So they're really, really old.
I'll tell you, man, I think you'll have fun with it, because I think I kind of share your passion for not being a hands-on person.
Yeah, I'm not.
So, but they've made it, like, GSG has made it so simple that when Giles showed me, I'm like, okay, this is like putting Legos together. Just glue.
You follow instructions. If you got some simple tools, you don't have to worry about routers and all that stuff. I think the hardest part is making it look nice afterward. You know, the finishing, I think that would be like, I know my buddy Kyle, Life of Bliss, that dude is like,
he's super good.
Yeah, he just makes stuff from nothing, kind of stuff. So
that dude's a monster. I love him.
I don't have that ability. I don't have that capability. You know.
Yeah, I had him on my live stream last 2 Thursdays ago, and yeah, we were just geeking out on all the stuff he's done, the 24-inch subs. I'm like, dude, that looks so cool, and he made it look really good. I mean, yeah, Giles and I just did for my, you know, first official, you know, build, we did the hammer by
Stephen Smith.
Stephen Smith. Okay. So it was cool. It was a good experience. I thought it turned out really well, especially the fact that, you know, it wasn't a hard bit. It wasn't like, dude, you just went super dark, bro. That is scary.
That's contrast right there, man.
Dude, you look like Coolio from Gangster's Paradise right now.
It's just the head that's bouncing. You know, there's no neck, there's no body, no arms, just a head.
So what do you think, Michael? What do you think? You think you're going to get into the DIY racket anytime soon?
I really do not see that in my future. Just like I said, I've just never had a desire for that. I mean, you know, anything can change over the years.
Sure.
But as of right now, I mean, you know, somebody asked me this, hey man, are you going to do some more? Are you going to upgrade the rest of your crossover? And I'm like, no, you know,
I'm done.
I took some measurements. I took some measurements. One of them had this dip in the high frequencies that the other two didn't. And so I reached out to JEM Performance Audio. So they're like authorized clips crossover repair center kind of thing. And I think they sell speakers too. But that's the only company that does that. And there's a lot of other guys that'll build crossovers for you. But I wanted to keep it basically as close to factory as I could, you know, and this is literally the only company that Clips basically says, hey, look, you know, we like what they do. And we approve of the parts that they're using. And that's as close as you're going to get to the whole, you know, original capacity. So.
Well, it looks like Life of Bliss is kind of speaking.
Yeah.
He made it.
Yeah. He's already declaring it, but no, that's cool.
He's dreaming, man.
So what, you got anything crazy coming up? Anything crazy in the queue right now that you're working on?
Not so much crazy. I mean, I've been working on the HTP1, which is Monolith's 16 channel processor.
Oh wow, cool.
Didn't have a really good experience originally with the Emotiva RMC1. That thing had a lot of bugs in it. I mean, a ton of bugs. So I was hoping this was going to be a lot smoother, and by far, I mean, just complete night and day as far as that. Both of them sound awesome. They really, really sound well. This one has a totally different user interface. So instead of using, you know, like your on-screen display, it doesn't have an on-screen display. You do everything through a web user interface.
Oh,
so
wow.
basically you would go into a browser, type in the IP address of the unit, and that's located on the front of the LCD screen. And that pulls up your menu. So you've got volume control right there on the home page, and you can select, you know, direct on or direct off, bypass, different sound fields, you know.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, and then you can do all your calibration, adjustments.
Cool.
So it's pretty wild. You know, there's definitely some little quirks in it. You know, it's not really optimized for a mobile device. You know, it would probably be a lot better for a tablet, just because you got more real estate. You know, just the different pages, they don't like resize and things. So you're kind of zooming in and scrolling, and just doesn't all fit within a mobile device.
Sure.
But to me, I think that would be really cool, because, you know, you're watching a movie, you know, and how many times do you hit the, you know, setup? Hey guys, hang on 1 second. I got to change something. And you pause the movie, you bring up the, you know, and your wife's like, oh gosh, really? Just hit play. I don't care what you're doing. So with this one, literally, I can change any setting, adjust anything I want, even change the Dirac. What do they call them? Filters? I think it saves like, you can save like 6 different Dirac
profile settings,
profiles, presets, whatever you want to call it. I think they call them filters. So basically you can have one for whatever, you know, with your curtains open or with curtains closed, or with multiple people in the room. So, you know, just however you want to set it up, and you can just click from one to the next, and nobody even really knows.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
let me pick your brain a little bit about Emotiva, because I was actually talking to Giles, because I'm in the market for a preamp.
Yeah.
And I saw that they had a very inexpensive preamp. But anytime I see something inexpensive, it gets dangerous.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think Emotiva is a solid brand, or do you think I can do better for a little bit more?
In my opinion, all right, I love what Emotiva stands for. Love the company. They have made, you know, just tremendous products in the amplifier. And I think that they make good processors. They just tend to struggle with like getting the bugs out. You know, typically the process, they'll release something, and maybe their engineers and you know, their guys, they think that everything's cool, but they send it out, and then all these customers have issues. So then they're doing update after update after update, fixing all the bugs. And sometimes it's just a long time. I mean, it's like sometimes a year. Yeah. And they're still working out the bugs. And that's got to be frustrating on consumers. I had a long time ago, I had the UMC one. So that was probably, gosh, Giles, how long ago was that? Like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, I think
it's been a while. So I had that same thing, quite buggy. So unfortunately, that's just kind of like their MO. I don't know if they're just really great at figuring out all those nuts and bolts of making a quality processor. Like I said, it sounds phenomenal. Like literally the best home theater I've ever heard so far had an Emotiva RMC1 processor. Sounded phenomenal. But then there was like fortunately we didn't run into a lot of issues that day, but we went to switch over to 2-channel. And he switched it over to 2-channel, and all his speakers were still playing. Oh. And he'd switch back, tried turning off the unit, turn it back on. The only way to get it to 2-channel, he had to literally go into his rack room, shut it down, unplug it, let it like hard reboot. Then it booted up. Then he could switch into 2-channel, and then only 2 speakers were playing. So it's just those kind of things that's got to be so frustrating for a consumer. When it's working great, it sounds phenomenal, but it's just those types of things that are kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and that's the thing with processors, and Giles can attest to this. He bared witness to this. That when I saw the difference between using a conventional AVR and going from that to an actual processor and amplifier and all that good stuff.
Yeah, when you go from integrated,
I don't think a lot of people realize the difference in quality and sound and picture. It's unreal. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
What was that, Mike?
Wouldn't you agree though? Like didn't make sense.
So when you move to separates, typically you're going to a higher channel count, right? And you're looking for the ability to mix and match amplification as you want it to be, right? As opposed to what you get in the AVR. So yeah, it's really cool. And typically separates are a higher tier of equipment anyway. So
that is correct. I know for me, I've always had efficient speakers, being, I've owned a lot of clips over the years, so they don't require a lot of power. And so I've had the chance to review some of the higher end Denon and Marantz receivers, their AVRs, the 6400 for the Denon and the SR8012 for Marantz. So these are like $3,000 units, $2,000 units. So they're not inexpensive in the AVR realm. Adding an amplifier to that, to my system, didn't make a ton of difference. Whether I was adding a Parasound A52 Plus, I've had the Monolith X or 11X, I've had the Emotiva XPA11, and then I've owned 3 other amplifiers previous to that. Even before I got into review and stuff, I had a Parasound, I had a B&K, and I had a Sherborne. And all of those were 200 to 220 watts per channel. And adding that to an AVR didn't make a ton of difference. I heard better bass at lower volume, so like even if you've got the volume down low, you get, a good little thump. So that's a bonus. I heard, slightly better separation of musical instruments. And you just got like plenty of headroom. If you want to crank it up, it's not going to run out of gas. It's not going to become, kind of strained sounding. But apart from that, it wasn't like a big difference. It wasn't until I reached out to Marantz and I'm like, let me just see what this whole separate thing's about. I mean, did they really just take an AVR and just pull the amplifier out of it and say, here you go? Is that what it is? And that's what I expected. But of course, you talk to everybody that's done that and they're like, I'll never go back kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
But you always wonder, are they just saying that because they put all the money in?
True.
Like, I can't go back.
Exactly. So, and funny that we're talking about this because literally that's my next video that I'm working on. Just because I've got the SR8015 in from Marantz, their brand new one. And then I've got my AV7705 processor. So before I finish up with the Emotiva, the Monolith HTP1, before I pull that out, install the SR8015 and start reviewing that, I figured, well, let me just at least talk about, what are those differences? Because I've had people recently just ask me like, I'm not sure what separate says. What does that even mean? So I'm just going to make it kind of a basic video, kind of showing the differences, talking about the differences, talk about the pros and cons of it. So I started working on that video today and I'll finish it up hopefully tomorrow and get that edited. And so it'll be live tomorrow.
Cool. We'll have to all be sure to check it out. And for those of you that aren't, I mean, obviously everybody on here knows who Youthman is, but if there's one of you out there that doesn't know who Youthman is, definitely check out his channel, because he's awesome. And if you guys haven't checked out our channels, of course, this is kind of like our midway plug point.
The mid
definitely
plug.
check out. Yeah, the mid plug. Check out Home Theater Fanatics. Jobs at Home Theater Fanatics for all your home theater, hi-fi, pretty much everything that has to do with speakers and power. And if you're looking for something right about the same, over to
about the same, yeah,
and check my stuff out as well. But yeah, definitely. We do, all three of us put in a lot of work and are proud of what we do. So we definitely do this for the audience. We're not driving Bentleys or anything off this YouTube thing right now. So
one day,
if that was the case, I would be thanking you guys a lot more. But yeah, man. So okay, so Giles, what's the next thing in your queue? What do you got going on? What's the next thing you're really looking at? Because I know you have a lot going on.
Oh, dude,
but
I've got my long list. It's like
I know,
20 videos deep right now. No, stuff that's coming up soon. So SVS, the Prime Wireless Sound Base, I'm going to do a installation video for that, showing people how to set that up and what it does and why they might be interested in it. I'm going to do a acoustic treatment video around simple acoustic treatments for your home theater. So I've got a SCAD panels that I'm going to put up and talk about the whys of why you might be interested in doing that. I just dropped the A8 video on Tuesday from Stark Sound. I'll be doing a processor upgrade in the theater, moving from a Muse, and this is the world premiere, to the Act 4.
Oh, we finally get to hear what it was.
Yeah. So the idea there is to be able to do all processing in the Act 4 for all channels, including all sub channels. So it'll be 9.5.4 at least right now. Nice. And the Act 4 does up to 20 channels, and I want to do all the crossover and time alignment for subs in the Act 4 and see if I can figure out how to do that. And along with Act 4, also testing of Aspect, which is the DIRAC from Indie Audio Labs.
Yeah. And they're just about to introduce that, right? They're kind of working on that final stages of it.
Yeah, if people are interested in hearing about that, check out CDA tomorrow. We'll be hosting a event from those guys where they talk about where they're at with that technology. So that'll be tomorrow morning at 9.
And it's not cheap. It's like
it's not cheap.
Like $2,500 for the software. Yeah.
So I think the general idea for Accurus, because Accurus isn't, they don't follow the same sales model as a Marantz or a Denon.
Sure.
So they're not like mass market.
No,
they really want to sell through the channel, right? So they're swimming firmly in the channel through, and they want partners to sell the units. And as part of setup services, they'll come in and use their tools and do that. So you might pay $50 for a setup instead of paying, the $2,500 to buy the 4 or 5 mics or whatever it is. So I think they're going for a much different kind of model.
Would you say that that's probably more the CI custom?
Yeah. Oh, it's totally CI. Yeah. They are firmly embedded in the CI market right now. Sure. However, a lot of folks are starting to say, hey man, this Muse, that's it sounds good enough that I'm willing to spend a little bit of money on it and go through the setup myself. So that over time I think they will have more of the consumer market. I don't want to say erode the CI market, but supplement the market. But it's like one market consuming the other, because there's only so many people that are going to buy Muse, right? But I think they'll see a little bit of shift there over time. But tomorrow we get to talk about that. And I think that's how the cost model works appropriately for Aspect, really being in that CI model. I was thinking about just buying one and then renting it to people for $20 a week.
There you go.
Seriously, just like as a public service kind of thing, right? Okay, you want to buy and do one of these yourself? Nice. Here, I've got a kit. I'll send it to you. Send me $20. Use it. Get everything set up the way you want it. Send it back. I'll send it on to the next one.
There you go.
That would be kind of fun.
I actually have one of their old amplifiers, the A200. So it's a 200 by 2, but it's probably
pretty old.
10 or 15 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe?
So Mike and I have been lusting over the Iridium which is their monoblock, and the 8008, which is their two channel hi-fi kind of audiophile amplifier.
Is that the Aragon series? Or
yeah, that's the Aragon stuff. They've got some pretty slick stuff there on that side.
Aragon stuff's beautiful.
It looks incredible.
I mean, all of it is.
Oh, it looks fantastic.
Oh, those iridiums, if you get two of the iridiums, and you know the way their box on the top has got the notch in it,
little V,
and well, you get one that's got a notch on this side and one that's got a notch on the other side, and you set it. Oh, it looks really cool.
So that's the thing that I dig about Acurus is that in Aragon is that they make it look good. You know, when I was taking a picture of your rack the other day, Giles, I was like, man, I even asked you, I'm like, hey, can we turn them on? Cause I like that little red glow, you know?
The M8 and the Muse together.
Yeah, 'cause together they look so, not only are they similar in size, but they're exact in style. So not even if it's in a rack, if it's in your, you know, home theater unit, you know, in front of your TV or, you know, in front of you and everything, it
looks good in a TV stand.
Super clean, you know? That's something you can be proud, because a lot of times you put an amp in there, they're ugly, you know, they're meant for a rack because they're not pretty. Why do you think they put a dark glass door on a rack? 'Cause they want to hide this stuff. But a lot of times, you know, it looks good, you know, and you want to show that off. But I don't know, man. So, Youth Man, would you consider yourself more leaning toward? Well, obviously, you're obviously a home theater, you know.
Correct.
Aficionado.
Yeah.
Do you dabble a lot in 2-channeled, or do you find yourself doing that a lot?
Not a lot. I mean, literally, I've got a 2-channel setup, but I don't use it a whole lot. I don't listen to a lot of music. Most of my content and my desire is to watch movies. You know, so that's kind of where, you know, my content is based around. I mean, selfishly, it's around what I'm passionate about, and just sharing that passion and the things that I learn along the way. My failures, I'm learning to even do that now. It's like, instead of trying to figure something out, it's like, okay, what if I just document the process? You know, I'm getting ready to make a video and I realize, hey, one of my speakers isn't really working right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a video on that. And then I kind of brought my audience through that journey of, okay, here's what I did to troubleshoot it. Here's what I figured out was wrong with it. And here was us installing the new capacitors, and we're back, you know, good to go. But again, it's just kind of like, okay, this is just my journey. These are things that I'm learning, things that I'm excited about. And, you know, so 2-channel, I love music, but I'll probably never just sit down and listen to music for, you know, an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And the 2-channel guys can do that. No problem.
I'll tell you what, I want to have the time. I want to have the time. I want to have the luxury of time to be able to sit down and listen to music for 2 hours straight. Yeah. Because then I'll know.
You've made it, man. You've made it if you can do that.
I've made it.
Just put it on your goals, man. So
I'll tell you what was that chair I sat in at QAV, Giles? That real fancy schmancy chair.
The clam one?
It looked like an IKEA chair.
Like
no, but dude, it's like a $3,000 chair or something. It was like, it reclined a little bit, you know, you could put your feet up. Well, I forgot who made it, but dude, it was awesome.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, we had, who was that? Sonus Faber. And they were talking about that chair. They actually have one in their space, their demo room.
Yeah. It's like a famous chair.
Yeah.
It's like made out of wood, and it's like one continuous piece of wood that comes up, and if you sit in it, the wood kind of will flex so you can rock in it just a little bit, and it's kind of low. Yeah, dude, I can't think of the name.
I don't know, man, but honestly,
IKEA totally knocked it off and made like a whole bunch of versions.
Oh, they did, and it's probably super uncomfortable at IKEA.
Yeah.
But if I could sit in that chair, you know, have a glass of scotch on the rocks, you know, and just listen to music for 2 hours, guys, I'll put that all over the place, because then
here it is right here.
I'm famous.
I found it. It's called the lobster chair.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Ooh, Brown Note just called it out. The lobster.
It's $1,200. No, I'm sorry. It's $7,000.
Yeah, see, that's
right.
I was looking at the headphones to the right of it. Yeah, that's called the Gamut HiFi Lobster. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Stop that one.
No, I don't think it's the lobster. It's not the lobster.
Yeah, it's probably not. But this is another one. This is what they recommended. They're like, dude, you got to check this out.
Hold on.
Let's see if you can share that.
Can we share that?
Yeah.
It's not the Eames. I'm just Googling expensive chairs now.
Do you have a share option down at the bottom?
Hold on. There we go. Boom.
Yeah, so that's the lobster chair.
Yeah, that's not it.
Thing's crazy.
But that thing is cool looking. But the one that I was, man, you know what? Maybe it's on the. Let me go look at the QAV website. They might have it.
I'm sure they'll have a picture of it. I don't know if they call out the name, but I'm almost certain they have a photo.
I think the goal, what they were saying with this one, not only as far as comfortability, but it's really designed with 2-channel in mind. Because when
it does look cool.
When you think about what they were explaining is a typical chair, you've got a headrest. And so the headrest can actually, modify how the sound is hitting your ears, being reflected back to your ears. And so, supposedly this just kind of gathers that sound and it just kind of ushers it into your whatever, your oral senses. So, but
that's nifty.
Yeah. I don't think I'd spend $7,000 on a chair though. Not that one.
God, there's a picture of the room, but not a picture of the chair.
I actually had a picture of you sitting in the chair, but I don't know what I did with it. I think I just snapped it on my phone.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you just snapped because I think I asked you to snap it. No, I think we were just messing around. Handcrafted maybe. I don't know, but man, that chair. I'll tell you what. Oh wait! I found it!
Did you found it?
Okay, I'm gonna share it. Hold on.
You sure you found it?
Yeah, it's like in the right corner of the screen. You're gonna have to like really look. Okay, it's right here.
Okay.
This thing.
Yeah, that thing.
Top right corner. So I don't know if you've ever seen that. But yeah, that thing is so comfy, but so expensive at the same time. Oh, but yeah, QAB, if you're ever in Denver, they have a really beautiful showroom you should check out.
It looks nice if that's their setup.
Yeah, that's their showroom, and they do
awesome.
a lot of CI stuff, and they do like home theater stuff. They do everything, and yeah,
they've been nominated for CEDIA Showroom of the Year a bunch of years. I don't know if they've actually won it or not, but they're always in the running for that. It's a really nice facility.
Dude, I was telling Tyson, man, can I just live here, please? Like,
they've got a kitchen and a bathroom.
It has a kitchen,
and a shower in there.
It has a kitchen and a bathroom.
Nice.
And then they have that cool screen in the mirror in the bathroom to show off. You could do like TV in your mirror. I mean, I don't know if I would ever use that though. That's a little crazy. I mean, come on. Like, am I really be brushing my teeth watching the news for like 20 minutes? Come on.
Yeah. So hey, let's do a few questions from folks, because I know we've got at least one question that Herman asked us to take a look at. So Herman, there you are.
Herman's in the house, man. What's going on?
Yeah, Herman's coming in from China too. So
very cool.
He's probably breaking the law trying to listen to us on social media over here.
Wow.
But he actually sent a question, and let me share up this Chrome tab. And so he is building a new home, and he is building a theater, and it is going to be pretty rocking. And I am looking forward to going over and visiting one day to check it out when he gets done. Hopefully he'll be done with it by next summer, and travel will be open again.
Yeah, no doubt.
Next summer. But this stuff, Absorb Select. He is asked if we think it's a good idea that he use this in his walls.
It looks like my mattress pad.
Oh God, it looks hard, man. There's a piece of wood in there almost.
Oh, the bottom part looks like my mattress pad.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, that would be a horrible mattress. Oh, man.
Mike is sleeping on some Owens Corning.
Yeah.
702.
Wouldn't be as painful as some acoustic stuff, It's like stabbing you in the back. That would be cool.
They have all kinds of stuff at this place. Look at these. That's
so they
nice
do big auditoriums.
Yeah, look at that stuff. I bet that's $1 million worth of stuff right there.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that on the right hand side of this photo, you see those panels. I think that's the kind of stuff that he's talking about putting up. But so in general, not specifically talking about this stuff. And let me pull this back down. In my opinion, outside of the actual speakers themselves, the acoustic treatment of the room is going to be the next most important thing that you can look at doing to making your room sound good. Because without speakers, you can't hear anything, right? Amplifiers, processors, sources, those all absolutely impact the sound. Sure. But your acoustic treatments are a super big deal. So Herman, that stuff looks good. And, that is a reputable company. And they obviously use this stuff in commercial applications. Sure. So is it overkill for your room? Maybe, I don't know. But if you don't go with that stuff, definitely go with something, even if you're just treating your first reflection points and maybe some bass trapping, maybe some diffusion on the back wall or something like that, something to help with SBIR, but some level of acoustic treatments, because my guess is that in China, all your walls are going to be concrete and your floor is probably going to be tile. So
a lot of hard surfaces.
That's a lot of reflection. So man, if you can get that stuff at a good price, go for it. If you can get it at a really good price and you can ship it to the United States, send me some too. And
I know one thing I tell people, just an easy way to tell if your room needs treatment is just clap loud one time. Like just hit it one time, just smack it real hard and just listen. And if you hear, boing, boing, or whatever, if you hear that echo, what's happening is your speaker. And I always thought that acoustic panels were kind of like snake oil. I'm like, I'm not spending money on that crap. You don't need them, and they're not going to do anything. I was completely wrong in my thinking. But then after I did that one day, I'm like, and I started thinking about them. Okay, the sound is coming directly from your speakers and hitting your ear. And then you've got sound that's reflecting off, say, your side walls or your ceiling or your back wall or whatever. So that sound is now hitting your ear with a delay. It's hitting it later than the initial direct sound. And so your brain is hearing two different, it's hearing the same information, but at two different times. And so that's where it gets unintelligible. That's where your dialogue, that's where your dialogue just is like, what'd they say? I can't understand it. And you think it's your speakers. So you go out and buy a bigger, better, badder speaker, and you still didn't fix the problem. You're like, why? I've got $1,000 center channel. This thing should sound awesome.
I know. And then you're like plus 3 decibels in the center, plus 6 decibels on the center.
You're boosting it up, and you're ruining it even more. So absolutely, man. I think acoustic panels are huge. And I saw a Joey mentioned like DIY. If you're remotely handy, like mine are DIY, but I got a Youth Man deal on, so I paid $11 a piece for them. And I bought, I don't know, about 15 of them, maybe 12, something like that. But they're pretty simple. You've got just some wood. You've got the, typically 2 or 3 inches if you're doing high frequencies, like your just like regular acoustic panels. And then if you're doing like bass traps, you want it a lot thicker because those bass waves are longer. To be able
4
to
to 6 inches on those. If you can.
You want to stop that. So, and then just put some fabric over it, and figure out a way to hang it. So they're really affordable if you want to go that route, but there's definitely some great companies out there. Not sure, Herman, what you have in your area.
I think he's in Shanghai. Is that right, Herman? Shanghai? I think that's where you're at.
Yeah. But definitely those look cool. I haven't heard of that company. Typically you hear of like, what is it? GIK.
GIK Acoustics. Yeah. That's actually where my panels are coming from. And they actually arrive. Well, I'm only getting a subset. So I'm getting like 8 or 10 panels tomorrow. Yeah. But yeah, they're very commonly used and pricing's kind of average-ish, right?
Yeah. I think they're about $50 a piece, at least when I was looking at them.
Yeah. So GIK, GIK, and Acoustimac are the kind of the common
their leaders.
Yeah. And then Vicoustic, if you go upstream, upmarket kind of stuff. Gotcha. But man, those get pretty spendy.
Sure. And they can definitely add up. And, I know there's scientific ways of figuring out where to put them. Giles had mentioned the first reflection point. That's where I started, and an easy way to do that, I tell people, just take a mirror and get somebody to help you. So you sit in your primary listening position and take a mirror. I'm gonna see if I can do this. So put a mirror up against this wall right here and just move it forward and backwards until you can see your speaker in that mirror. And that's where where your first reflection point is. And so you put a panel there, put a panel pretty much directly on the opposite side. And then the other ones, honestly, in my room, it was just like, okay, I've got the first ones installed, so where's it going to look good in the rest of the room?
You know, for me, it's going to be, where do I have space on the wall to put them? Because my room's not a purpose-built theater. It's a retrofit room. So I've got like a stair rail on one side and I've got closet doors on the other. So it's just, I'm just sticking panels where I can. But folks, don't forget that the easiest treatment is a rug on the floor.
Absolutely.
And then once you get to the point of doing panels, there's a first reflection point on the ceiling as well.
Yeah.
So that's another one. And usually you can get panels anywhere on the ceiling you want them to go. Yeah. So that's a big win.
I haven't put any panels on the ceiling. I've got carpet on the floor. Somebody told me a little secret that they've done too is, you put a rug, try to get it really thick, so that it's plush and it'll absorb some of that sound. But they even put almost like a pad underneath that rug to even add more absorption down there.
Sure.
I'm like, man, I never would have thought of that. So
it's like people who build risers. They'll stuff it full of
mine is.
Yeah, that's a huge bass trap, which is amazing.
Yeah, my whole riser is just filled with insulation.
Yep,
that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as that's probably the sneakiest, coolest acoustic treatment that you can put in a room is a riser for second row.
Yeah, it serves dual purpose. You're right. I think you're right. Down, Joey mentioned that Ron Bernay, he was the one I think that told me that a long time ago. I was like, man, I would have never thought of that. That's pretty cool.
There's so many different techniques out there. It's unreal. I was just chatting it up with Giles yesterday, telling him I was finishing up my foam panel.
Straight up foam.
Well, this company sent him out to me, and I was like, I didn't want to say no. I was like, whatever, I'll try it out.
Is that the foam behind you?
Yeah, it's right here. I was just playing around with it and seeing where I want to stick it. Honestly, let me put it to you this way. If I covered floor to ceiling, and then over here, perhaps we will see. The clap might work. I mean, you could still obviously hear, stuff, but just a small portion. I'm kind of with you on the reflection points. That's actually something when I was watching that EXO Contralto video, I know he does a lot of car audio, but he did an actual, how to put foam on the deal. And he actually did the mirror test where he was testing out, and he strategically put all this stuff. He was using foam just like me.
Right.
But I mean, if someone's on a really big budget and they can't afford $50 a panel, or they can't afford that, this stuff comes like in a big pack of like 25 for like $20 or something. It's super cheap, super cheap. So I'm going to do different stages of acoustic treatment. So after this, I think I'm going to take a stab at the DIY stuff and then see down the road if I can work with another company that has better stuff. So, not saying better, but it's more expensive.
And it looks nicer. It's got a nicer finish.
It's not black foam, but honestly, for someone starting out, I explained in a video how to put it together real quick, how to mount it to your wall without, ruining your walls, stuff like that. Just simple stuff for someone who's beginning and on a budget.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I took it, and that's kind of how I presented it. But would I use it if I, had the ability to have acoustic or stuff like that? Probably not. I would use the better stuff, but I don't know, for something simple and easy and quick, why not?
Yeah. Kyle from Life of Bliss, he actually has a video on his channel where he of course made them, but then he also covered them and had I think he's got like movie posters. So you can get kind of creative. You can put artwork on the fabric, and there's companies out there that can print that, and then you just stretch it around your acoustic panels, and then it's decorative as well as it serves a purpose. So instead of just having a solid color like I do in my room. So
mine are going to be solid black.
Creative. Yeah, that's what mine are. They're like a gray.
So here's a miraculous event that happened this week. So I am sitting at my computer. My wife comes up and she's like, "Hey,
Giles hit puberty."
She hit puberty, and she says, "Hey, in the living room." And so I've got a 2-channel setup in the living room. She's like, "Hey, we should put some of those things up."
Wow!
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, what do you mean?
That doesn't happen.
She's like, those things that you have coming for the basement that do the sound thing, but it needs to be pretty. So it needs to have custom photos on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you mean absorption panels.
Yeah.
And she's like, whatever. We should put some of those up.
Interesting.
That's right. Can you imagine her saying that, Mike?
You're right. That is like a miracle because my wife
it is. It is a little small one, but still.
Now, here's the bad thing. In my room, you know, I've got like, it's probably 25 foot long, about 15 foot deep, 12-foot ceilings, but it opens up to the kitchen and the dining room table, my office here, you know, the breakfast nook and all that. But it's just, man, it's the worst place. I mean, I can clap in it. I don't even do any videos out there because if you look at I really try not to do videos out there because it's just echo city. So I would love to be able to say, you know, for Jessica to go, hey, I think we need some of them things, you know, that you got in a theater room in here. Probably will never happen. So, man, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. She only bought into one.
Oh,
on the wall behind the sofa, right? So that's a start, though.
You're gonna be like Mike. It'd be like, okay, I don't hear any difference with the one, so maybe it will.
So here's
but these are baby steps, though.
Yeah,
these are baby steps.
That's awesome.
One will turn into two.
Right.
You should have heard Giles. Giles was a kid in a candy store the other day when she came into his listening room and said, "Man, those look really good. I like those speakers. Those are really good looking speakers." Remember that, Giles?
It was another good day. I think that's over the edge.
Giles, you've had a good week.
Yeah.
Well, she saw those, right? And they look really nice, right? And then I think that got the wheels turning. And she's like, okay, what can we do to make this all, you know, just a little bit nicer? She's like, oh, he's got those things there, and let's put them up here. And then I can do like custom cover on it. Cause she's the artistic one in the family, so to speak. Right. And she runs, you know, a couple of different YouTube channels, and she's got one that's dedicated to artwork, and she draws and shows people how to paint and use watercolor and all that kind of stuff. So she's always thinking about how we can deal with that. So yeah, that was exciting.
Nice.
It was kind of cool that she showed a little bit interest in the speakers too.
You should just tell her, hey, I want a picture of my face on the wall. And just see, not mine, but yours, you know.
Let's put Mike up in our house.
Why not?
No, she's talking about doing like a family portrait. Like,
that'd be cool, man. Seriously.
Yeah, I can take the pictures for you. That'd be fun.
Exactly. So, like a 4 foot by 3 foot family portrait on an acoustic panel.
That'd be super cool.
Like landscape.
Now, if you do that though, she has to like leave you alone for the aesthetics downstairs though, because then you can put up whatever you want.
Well, so for the basement, for the theater room, the agreement is that as long as I don't make structural changes to the room, meaning that I don't rip walls out or I don't tear down the banister on the stair rail, the rest of it I can do whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of our agreement. My wife was actually the one that suggested that I had a dedicated theater room. I'm like, what? And originally I'm thinking like only rich people have, you know, dedicated theater rooms. And she's like, no, for real, I think we ought to do it when we build a house. So we ended up buying a house that was 2 months away from being finished. And the room, you know, we walked in, we loved everything about it, had the split floor plan, had enough bedrooms for us. And then it had a quote media room, which was just a completely unfinished rectangular 13 foot by 19 with 10-foot ceilings. No closet, of course, you know. So that would typically be for somebody that probably is wanting to put a pool table or a ping pong table, something like that. You know, it's probably not designed to be a theater room. Like I would love to have it a little bit wider and a little bit deeper. So I could get especially my rear surrounds a little bit further back than the back row, but it is what it is. And, you know, I'm grateful to even have a row, man. Yeah. I'm grateful for what I've got. And, but that was her idea. But the agreement was, she says, you can do whatever you want in a theater room, you know? So if you want big subs, fine. If you want whatever, but I don't want anything in the rest of the house. Fast forward 14 years later, we've got speakers in the living room. All of my kids have speakers in their room. And, you know,
well, I mean, she has to understand you review these things, you know, daily.
This was before that though. So it was like,
really?
Yeah, the deal was I started putting them in the kids' bedroom because she doesn't see those as much. I just find good deals on, you know, Craigslist or whatever and pick them up because they love music, you know. And my son has had like the big tower speakers with dual 10s, you know, probably since he was about 15, I guess. And and then my daughters, they've all got kind of smaller bookshelf speakers. And but there was one day I had bought a pair of speakers and there were some Bowers and Wilkins. I think the 604 S3s, I think was the model number, or 602 S3, something like that.
Like the 800 series diamonds.
Nah, these were much more affordable. I probably paid a couple $100 for them, and they sounded great. And I had them in the living room. She goes, I'm like, dang, these sound good. I like them. She's like, no. And that was our agreement. I said, fine. So I sold them. I bet a month later, we're in like the mall or somewhere, and she says, you know what I've been thinking? She says, maybe you could have some speakers in the living room. I'm like, what? I just sold the ones I liked. And then she hits me with it. She says, but, and I went, all right, what do you want? She's like, I want some new furniture. Our furniture's crap. So weird. Probably within 2 weeks, I had her new furniture and had it all set up. And then I started on the lookout for, some speakers for the living room. So, but she said, no subwoofer, absolutely no subwoofer. You've got subwoofers in a theater room that shake the house. You just can't put anything in, the living room. So I just went with the biggest towers with dual 10s. And so there's my subwoofers.
See, that's the thing. Hearing you and hearing Giles, I'm like so happy I'm single.
Nah, man. I would sell every speaker that I had, and I would get rid of my theater room.
Really?
Yeah, 100% for my family. Yep.
That's what Giles keeps telling me. He's like, Mike, you don't know it until you have it. You don't realize how special it is.
100%.
Like, hopefully, I'm hoping I do. I honestly hope I do. I know
it'll come, dude. It'll come naturally.
I enjoy being single now and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm about to hit 40 in about 2 years.
Cool.
So I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I think it is time to settle down, but I want to find the perfect one, dude. I want to find if I find a girl that says, "Hey, I love speakers." I'm like, "You love them as much as I do."
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yes. Bro, that's done. I mean, I'll marry her. I don't care if I have to fly to a different country.
Yeah,
I will marry her.
For that one. That's few and far between. I mean, just looking at my analytics, I've got like 2 women out of 60,000 people that view my channel, and probably one of them's my wife, and
Oh yeah, I think I'm at like 96%. I'm at 96%.
It's so small. So they're out there, but
and then that's the thing. I think they are out there. I just don't think the interest is as crazy as ours. Like I think
it doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter. That's
I hate speakers.
Yeah, that's not a relationship building block necessarily. No. Whether they like speakers or not.
I was just saying that would be a plus, bro.
That's bonus, man.
Yeah, that's bonus. I'm already expecting them not to like speakers. So if they could say, "Hey, that sounds good,"
if you can find a woman that will put up with your crap,
there you go.
You've already won the game.
Oh, come on. Yeah. I'm pretty
low maintenance.
Yeah, we're going on 24 years next year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
Yeah. I just hit 45, so I'm right there with you, man.
Oh, dude,
but I got married when I was 22, maybe.
I'll tell you what, though. I think all three of us are
21.
All three of us are reasonably young to be in this industry, because I remember when I went to RMAF, I felt like I was a baby. I felt like I was an infant.
One of the youngest people there.
Yeah,
I think Giles, myself, the guys I came with, and I think Joe and 123 Toyd were there.
Yeah,
and out of all those, I think we were all the youngest crowd.
Yeah,
obviously aside from the people demonstrating, but no, out of the attendees.
Yeah, sure,
dude.
This is a lot of typically the demographic is the older gentleman, that has, maybe paid off their home. They've got more disposable income, and but I think the great thing now is that we're seeing, and probably partly a lot because of what we all do, we're inviting this younger crowd into this space and to get into 2-channel, get into home theater, and we're showing them, okay, you don't have to spend, $30,000 on a pair of speakers. There's some great options out there in just about any budget. You can get some good sound, and not have to. And of course, that's just a rabbit hole. Once they dabble in it, like, oh, these sound good, but then they start upgrading. Down the road,
they're like, these images. What? Oh, word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you one last thing, because I know we got to wrap up here in a second.
Yeah.
When you were a youth pastor, did you get a chance to have fun with some pro audio? Because I know in a lot of ministries they use pro audio.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my my last student ministry, we probably had a church attendance of about 750. So it's kind of like a medium-sized church. It's not a not a mega church, but not a small country church. And so we had a decent amount of budget, but I'm again kind of the youth man deal kind of stuff. So I started looking on Craigslist. We had homemade speakers. I didn't even realize it till we uninstalled them. I just knew they sucked like bad.
Yeah.
And typically what happens with student ministries is when the church began to grow, they had, the sanctuary. So they build this big old worship center that'll hold like 1,500 people. So the youth ministry now gets the old sanctuary building that holds, probably held like 200 people.
Sure.
And so it was a pretty big space. And so we've got these speakers, they sound like garbage. You crank up the bass, it's muddy, it starts flopping around, it just sounds horrible. We've got the leftover sound mixer from, the previous, when they were in that building. So of course, when they build the new sanctuary, they want all brand new stuff and brand new equipment. So we just get all the leftovers.
Right.
And so again, I started looking on Craigslist, look on Facebook, all of that. And I was able to, we sold what we had for, a little bit. And I found a sweet deal. There was a guy that bought some JBL speakers. They were 2 towers that had tweeter, mid-range, 3-way speaker, dual 18, not dual 18s, but single 18 in each one. And then I bought 2 subwoofers that had dual 18s in each one of those.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And so we're doing this in a youth ministry, man. So we're like cranking it. And every once in a while they could hear it in the other building, but so we tried to be pretty respectful. But yeah, so I dabbled in that. I was the only one really at the church that was kind of tech savvy. And so I was the one that would set that up. Before I left, I ended up getting a digital mixer, kind of dove into that. That was kind of slick because you can like set your preset and you just say, all right, boom, here's a Wednesday night program. Because what I always hated, I'd come in on a Wednesday night and we had other people that would use that building apart from our student ministry. Like the Spanish church would do it on Sunday morning. And even though I would train them on how to use it, I'd come in and just stuff wouldn't work and mics didn't, they weren't on and they're turning knobs and stuff. And so with that digital mixer, man, you just hit one button, all those sliders move into place, all the settings are there and you're like, we're back in normal, and that's, you don't have to worry about that. So I always had a Spanish setting for them, a preset. And then I had the, Wednesday night youth. So I dabbled in that. Definitely is not my, probably my wheelhouse. But I had to learn DMX lighting and, because I wanted some cool lights during worship and, we're playing games. I want the lights kind of going everywhere and stuff. So
I'll tell you what, when I went to church back in California, I went to this church called The Rock, and man, it was like a rock concert. You know what I'm saying? It was like a nightclub.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much money they were making off of Tidy, but good Lord, it was just lights and action and sound and
whole production.
Yeah. Oh man, it was exciting. It really was exciting to see that kind of energy and that kind of production in a and it wasn't a very big church. Like it was probably the same size you were mentioning, maybe like 500 capacity, not very big. Yeah. But man, it really moved me. But yeah, man, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the invite, man. Had a blast over here and some folks over here in the chat that I recognize. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to see if there's anybody with any last minute questions for any of us, for Youthman, Giles, or Mike. And if you haven't already, check out Audio Architects on YouTube, check out Home Theater Fanatics on YouTube, and of course, check out Youthman on YouTube.
I guess here's a question from Joey. He says, what possessed Youthman to put La Scala's as my LCR? So one of the ways that I have funded my home theater journey is I would buy speakers just at a great price, typically hang on to them for a couple months, just enjoy them, turn around and sell them at whatever market value was. And usually I would make some money on it. And so I bought these literally thinking I've always wanted to hear La Scala's in my home. I've only heard them one other time. Very, very impressed. It was a 2-channel setup. He had an infinite baffle kind of built into his wall, subwoofer kind of thing. Sweet sounding. I mean, just phenomenal. And so I go over to this guy's house, and he was looking to move out of his home. Older gentleman. He said, I'm moving into a small single wide trailer and kind of downsizing. And so I just need something kind of smaller. He said, do you have anything? And then the only speakers I had at that time were at my office at the church, and there were some KG 3.2s. And so kind of just a small speaker, nothing fancy. And I just told him, I said, man, going from La Scalas to that is not going to compare. He's like, I don't care. I just want something that has decent sound. And so I brought him over. We worked out the deal. He ended up getting those, gave me the La Scalas, paid him some money, brought them home, literally just thinking, I'm going to check these out, listen to them for a while, enjoy them, and then I'm going to just turn around and sell them. And at least, because I never like giving advice, on something that I have not heard. People ask us for advice all the time. Hey, what do you think about this? I'm not going to tell you, the KEF sound awesome or they should work in your setup, because I've never heard the KEFs, you know what I'm saying, or KEF. And so that was one of the big things, is I pretty much wanted to own as many clip speakers as possible. And that's why I've owned over 50 pair of clip speakers over the years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's an insane amount. But again, I was active in the clips forum. I was a moderator there, and guys were just always asking, hey, what of this? Would this be an upgrade? And I just don't like giving advice if I haven't personally experienced it myself. So I bring them home, crank them up, and I'm like, holy crap, these things sound incredible. I mean, it's got a massive horn. I mean, the horn on it's probably 2 foot wide almost. I mean, it's huge. That's the mid-range horn. So the mid-range was just incredible. Definitely didn't have the slam that my previous speakers had, because they had 888s in them. But the bass that it produced was so clean. I mean, just really, really clean, because it's a folded horn design, very low distortion. And so I had a dilemma. I brought my son in. I'm like, son, listen to this. And he listened to them. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, Dad, they sound better than your speakers. And I'm like, dang. I said, I know. And that's my struggle, because these look dated. They look, there was like a couple words that I used to describe them. Basically, these look old and vintage. And at that time I was probably 35. And so I'm thinking, man, I'm too young to own these. These are guys that,
these are old man speakers.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, man, I want something stylish and cool and current and relevant. Long story short, I just said, I've got to keep these. And so I reached out to the guys in the clips forum, and I said, hey, I know this is a long shot. I've got 2. If I'm going to use this in my theater room, number one, can I use it for home theater? And everybody said, absolutely, completely. I said, but I need a third one. And like, who's going to sell me just a single one? And a guy in, I think it was like North Carolina or South Carolina, said, hey, Michael, I've got 3 of them. I already have a buyer here local for 2 of them. So I got an extra one. And I said, wow, really? I'm like, how much? And he told me, I'm like, all right, done. All right, I'll buy them. How do we get them here? What's the freight going to cost? He's like, you know what? Next month, I'll be coming down to Florida, and I'll be going right by your city, dude. He said, I'll just bring them to you. So he drove them down. He had a meeting down in Florida, drove his Jeep down, brought them. I didn't even have to listen to them, because I already knew what they sounded like. And so now I've got 3 La Scalas in my theater room, but I couldn't put them behind the theater, because I had a false wall, different one than I have now. Didn't have an acoustic transparent screen. Would barely fit behind the doors of the theater, or the cabinet. And I couldn't tow them in at all. So I told my friend, I'm like, hey, I love these speakers. I've got these. What are we going to do? What are my options? He's like, we'll just build you a new cabinet. I'm like, what do you mean we'll just build a new cabinet? He said, if you've got about $3,000, he said, I'll build your cabinet. If I were to hire somebody, I've had, guys that are really into woodworking. They said it probably cost me $20,000 to $30,000 to have somebody contract that, because everything's custom, 100%. I mean, he made all the bull noses. He's got hand carved dovetails in the drawers. He built a lathe just to make the column. So there's a half column on the right, half column on the left. And there's hand carvings. He had never hand carved in his life. So there's all these little intricacies to make that. The front screen flips up so I can easily get behind there. A drawer on the bottom pulls out so I can easily climb behind it to, make all my connections to my AVR, my amplifier, and things like that. And so he ended up building it. Ended up having 3 strokes. So that was a whole nother story there. But he doesn't even remember building, the unit. He basically lost his memory pretty much. Anything after the strokes, he doesn't remember. But he spent about 6 months building that, pretty much every day working on it.
Well, and that's cool because it means a lot to you.
Oh, 100%.
A lot to you.
100%.
That's what matters, man. And yeah, congratulations on that. I mean, that if it was almost like you were meant to have those Lascalas.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It all fell into place, and the guy going to Florida. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. But that was never my plan, just like even doing what I'm doing now. This was never my plan.
Mm-hmm.
I just figure I'm along for the ride, man,
Yeah.
And wherever this road takes, let's just take it a day at a time.
We do got a question from Home Cinema Reviews. He says, guys, any quick fire tips on growing a home theater YouTube channel? Is it just a case of consistency, videos once a week? Home Cinema Reviews doing home cinema reviews. Yeah. So I've been kind of talking to him about Instagram and stuff like that. So is there anything you could share with him, Mike, that he can kind of take with him?
So with, of course there are going to be guys that just blow up. There are going to be guys, whether it's in the home theater space or any space. There are definitely some people in our space that just recently, over the past year, their channel is just literally skyrocketing. And I'm trying to look at it going, all right, what did they do different? Like what changed, and I'm trying to figure it out. How do I take my channel to the next level? But
I think I know who you're talking about.
And I'm like, dadgum, man. I mean, I'm excited for him. Absolutely excited for him. I'm glad. But man, you look at it and go, golly, dude, like, how did you do that? And I mean, he's just blowing by everybody. And so definitely hats off to him. But I think for me, what I've seen, like I said, I spent 4 years and only got to 900 subscribers. And what I attribute that to, number one, I was not producing consistent content. So whether that's once a week, once every 2 weeks, you don't have to necessarily do daily. I mean, there are guys that do once a month and are doing extremely well in, maybe not in home theater space, because I think we have a smaller group, like a smaller pool of people.
Yeah, it's a smaller target audience.
Yeah. So I think we're limited in that, but you have to produce consistent content, because the reality, the way YouTube works is if you're not putting out content, somebody watches one of your videos this week and we like it. And we're like, oh, that's cool. I comment on it. And then I don't hear from you for 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by. You're no longer in my feed because I've been searching for other things. I've been clicking on other videos and not your channel. So the more, content that you have out there, the more options, more potential that YouTube is going to recommend your videos. They're going to watch Giles's video and go, hey, if you like Giles's video, you might like your channel, and they're going to recommend that. And if your thumbnail and your title is good enough for somebody to click on it, and that's another big thing, is you got to spend time on your titles and thumbnails. Those are really important, because think about it. If you're on this right here, you're on your phone and you're just scrolling, basically what you have to do is convince somebody to stop scrolling and to click. If they never click, it doesn't matter how awesome your video is, doesn't matter how great your audio is, doesn't matter how great anything is, because they never see it. So your titles and thumbnails are definitely key, but you don't want to be clickbait either. So there's a balance, but you got to make it something that they're going to be like, oh, I wonder what happens, maybe it's a question. I'm not I haven't perfected that by any means. So I'm still learning, day by day, but definitely consistency, work on your titles and thumbnails. I don't know. What are some recommendations from you?
Well, I know I get frustrated because I keep like beating myself up. I'm like, Giles, why am I not at 1,000 yet?
Yeah.
I want to get monetized. And I've only been at it for like 5 months now, 4 or 5 months now.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just passed 400 subscribers.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm feeling good. You know, obviously I have like a crazy successful Instagram, but it's the YouTube that's getting me, because there is no formula. Like in Instagram, there's a formula.
Yeah.
Follow it, you're successful.
Yeah.
Everything is good. But with YouTube, it's like some of it's like flip of a coin, luck of a draw. You know, one of my dumbest, worst videos I ever put out has 16,000 views, and I'm like, how? How?
It's got your best thumbnail.
Oh yeah, because I copied Unbox Therapy.
And you never know like what's gonna hit. And that's the other thing about putting out consistent. And here's the thing: if you're putting out consistent content, your videos are gonna naturally get better because you're editing more. So your editing is gonna get better. You're gonna learn more tips. You're gonna learn more tricks. You're gonna learn how to better make that flow into a story. You know, hopefully your audio, your lighting, all that thing's going to slowly improve. And over time, you know, I started with, I mean, you don't have to have fancy cameras, you know, you don't have to have fancy microphone, but definitely get make sure you have just a microphone.
Sounds
even it's a little $20 wireless or wired mic. I mean, that's still way better than your camera, microphone. What was that?
Yes. Yeah. I was just going to say audio in general is more important than the video. Yeah. If people
100%.
They're going to listen. So I break this down into two pieces. There's what I call the technical piece. And that's the stuff that you talked about. You have to be consistent. You have to understand how YouTube works. You have to have good thumbnails. You have to have good titles. Your videos have to be interesting and good and topical. But then there's also, I think, a big component of popularity. So not to sound too flippant, but if you want to be successful quickly, make videos about subwoofers, make videos about SVS, clips, make videos about, I don't know, Denon and Marantz, and because those are the things that
people are searching for, and there's a bigger pool,
broad, right? There's a big pool of people that are looking for that. And if you kind of want to distill that down, you do a lot of keyword research and engine research, and look for what people are searching for, and find those things that apply to your niche, and then make videos around that content. So if you can, and this goes back to what I told Mike, if you can give people what they want to a certain degree, they're going to consume it, because that's what
absolutely. Yeah.
If don't make monster truck videos for home theater people. Right.
And I think one other thing I try to, because I've worked with a lot of content creators, just that were just starting out, and kind of like you've done with Mike, and and just sharing them things that I'm learning along the way. Don't be scared to be you. I think it's easy on this side to think that we have to portray ourselves a certain way for people to like us. The reality is, if you'll be authentic and if you're goofy and silly, I mean, honestly, if that's your personality, let that come out. If you're dry and analytical, don't try to be just this comedic person, because that's just not your personality. Just be authentic, and I think people resonate with that. On my channel, I do not try to be the know-it-all, because I'm not. I literally am an everyday, average, ordinary dude that just happens to love home theater. And I want to share that love and share that passion, share those experiences with my audience. And I just try to make it really simple. I don't try to get fancy. And I think people have resonated with that, because they're like, dude, I understand what you're talking about. You're not trying to talk way up here in fancy terms. I mean, I don't even throw out like imaging and you know what I'm saying? All our jargon that we use in the industry. A lot of times I don't do that. Because that's just not me, man. I'll never, the dude I was talking about earlier, man, he knows all that stuff, and he can explain that and articulate what he hears and the subtle differences that he hears between this speaker and this speaker. And that's hard for me. It's hard for me to articulate I know I'm hearing a difference, but like, I couldn't tell you sometimes, all right, is that something to do with the mid bass? I just know it's thumping in my chest more, so I just break it down and make it real simple, but just learn to be you, and just embrace that, you know,
I think
flaws and all.
Yeah, I think people appreciate the genuineness
Yeah.
of it all. You know, like I'm kind of right there with you, Michael. I don't know it's funny because one of my best blog posts have been, I did a glossary, a glossary or like a dictionary of audiophile terms, because I don't know them all. I don't know what certain things mean.
Yeah.
And when I describe something, sometimes I describe something in a silly way in one of my videos. Like I'll say it sounds, great. I use a weird words,
Right.
Normally you audiophiles would be like, well, this guy's an idiot.
Right.
But that's just the way I
do it. A bit earthy and luscious, but it's forward reminiscent retro sound.
Yeah. I will never say that.
Yeah, I don't think I think all three of us can agree that we are not those people.
No. And so I don't try to be that, and it's easy to look at somebody else's channel and go, okay, he's growing. How can I be like him? You just got to learn to be like you, and your audience will connect with that. Like Mike said, with that genuineness, with that transparency. And the hard part is learning to be vulnerable, sharing those things that, aren't so glamorous. I did a video one time on my theater room, and I said, my theater room isn't perfect. And I shared literally like all the things, if I could build it over, because I didn't get a chance to build it. The room was a certain dimension. It was a certain size. And so because of that and the way that, the entrance door is, and the way that I've got a sliding glass door on the one side. So there are some challenges that I had to kind of overcome, and some sacrifices, honestly, that I had to make. And so I point those out in the video, and a lot of people were just so refreshed to think that, or they were just grateful that I didn't, try to make it seem like I've just got it all together. I had real problems, real issues. I had to deal with them, and it's not perfect, man. I've got issues in my room. I've got standing waves. I've got surround back speakers that are way in the wrong place, but that's about the only place I can put them, And so I just shared those. And so learning to be vulnerable, that's a good thing, but it's a hard thing, because we like to just show the neat, the tidy, the good stuff. And it's easy to do that with social media. We post a picture of our setup, and it's like, okay, I showed you the front, but if you saw the back, the mess we've got, all the speaker boxes and stuff strewn everywhere, like my theater room is trashed right now because I've just got stuff everywhere. And because I'm filming, I've got lighting, and I've got this, and I've got that, subwoofers here, amplifiers here, AVRs over here, and it's just, but you don't always see that,
Right.
So, but yeah, man. So hopefully, though, some of those tips, those will help. But just keep at it, man, and don't give up. That's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people, they give up too soon. I tell people the first 1,000 is the hardest.
Yeah.
Literally, like that is the hardest. Once you hit that, then you start gaining some traction.
Man, I wish I could gain some traction. It's been a fight for every single one.
Yeah. And it's crazy, man. So, and like I said, I don't have it figured out. I really don't. I think my channel has done very well. But then there's not competitive, but there's the side of me that says, okay, I'm just not content with just, this. It's like, what I do to hit that next level. And I'm just trying some different things on my channel to see if it works. And so far there hadn't been any magic formula. I'm just a steady climb, man. And,
I think I'm just sticking with consistently digestible content.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? I post once a week on Fridays. Everybody knows now, 9 a.m. on Fridays, they'll see a brand new video.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's all I can do for now, until I really, really jump on that horse and get going. All I can do is continue doing what I'm doing and trying to create cool content, for everybody to see. So I do want to thank you again, Youth Man, for being on. We got a lot of questions, but I think we're almost at an hour and a half.
Yeah,
so
we got to wrap it.
Yeah.
So I would love to invite you onto one of my Thursday night HiFI shows here soon.
Cool.
So that way we can kind of geek out and talk some more. This week I will be featuring a guy named Mikey Dillinger. He's a DJ he's actually a radio DJ out of California. So that's going to be a fun conversation. So if you guys can tune in this Thursday, 10 p.m., and always tune in every Tuesday for our pre-recorded in the morning and our HiFi Fanatics live stream at night. So thanks again, Youth Man.
Don't forget about our special events tomorrow and Thursday.
I'll let you do that.
So tomorrow and Thursday, CEDIA. At, if I can remember the time, it's 9 a.m. tomorrow. We will be putting on an event for Accurus, and we'll be hosting and talking about their gear and the new things that they've got going on. And then on Wednesday and Thursday at noon Mountain Time, these are all Mountain Time, we'll be moderating a discussion panel for Alcon's Audio, and they are a pro gear company that make amazing commercial cinemas, rock arena, stadium type setups. Hardcore, and some of the best ribbons I've ever heard anywhere. So we'll be running those events over the next couple of days. So CD is free. If you haven't had a chance, go check that out, register, and you can see our smiling faces again this week with 3 more hours of cool content.
It's going to be all week for me, because from tomorrow till Friday.
You're a machine.
All right. Well, thanks again, Michael, for being on our show. We really appreciate it. This is the kind of stuff we want to be doing, is just bringing the audio community together, and to show everybody that these crossovers are fun, and that we all get along, and we're all friends, and that's the way we want to keep it. We want to keep everything really, really light and really cool. So thanks again for coming on, and everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you we'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
See you then, guys. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.